Hello, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this edition of This Week. My name is Jelili Adebi Adegboyega, otherwise known as Ghana. I'm the host of today's program. This week is a lively bi-weekly program that shows on Saturdays at 1 p.m. UTC, 2 p.m. West African time, 3 p.m. Central African time, and 4 p.m. East African time. During this program, we discuss about current events ranging from pop culture to politics from across the continent of Africa. This means everything from serious to comical. We welcome you to this event to engage with us in the comment box or at leadersofafrica.org live. Join us or private chat us on Facebook group, Telegram channel, Discord channel, and of course, subscribe to Leaders of Africa on YouTube. With me on the program today are three distinguished guests that are regular faces in this program. And I'd like to start by introducing Violet. Violet, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Ghana. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And Peter, how
Awesome.
are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's been a long week, but I think we'll get to that later today.
That's good. And Gloria, how are you doing today?
Doing good, doing good. Happy to be here today.
And Eva, how are you doing today too?
I'm well, thank you.
That's great. And today we are going to be starting the conversation with Violet, who's going to be leading the discussion on issues pertaining to corruption. Over to you, Violet.
Oh, Ghana. So you decided to point your guns at me first. Okay, let's go. I wasn't expecting that. All right, let's go. So, yes.
I know you're a very passionate person, especially about issues relating to the continent, and you've been agitated in a lot of things, and you've been leading a lot of advocacy for positive change on the continent, and that's why it's your turn to start the conversation today.
Oh, well, I'm flattered. Thank you. So today this week I come across a story online, and it was about the South African minister. And apparently, so her name is Mapisa. I don't think I can pronounce her other name without butchering it. But apparently her salary has been cut for the next 3 months because she took members of her political party on, government business on a plane with, using government money. And so the president is saying you need to pay, for this expense with your salary. And it had me in stitches. And probably because we don't see this every day. Politicians do things like this and they get away with it all the time. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, wait. And then the picture that they had captioned along with the story had her face sort of like in disbelief. So I think that added to the humor. And so I'll just like to ask everyone, do you think this is a turning point for the continent where we have our leaders starting to be held accountable? Or do you think it's just a political stand? I don't know.
I think it's an interesting case. South Africa is one of these countries that has these different institutions when it comes to corruption. They have this office called the Public Protector, which is outside of government. So it's outside of like a cabinet ministry of judicial affairs or something of that nature. It's actually designed to protect the public and protect the public's interests on in a lot of areas. And one of the interesting things about that office is that when Jacob Zuma, the former president, was office, who was engaging in a lot of questionable activities during his period of time, I'm sure everyone's aware of that right. term, state capture, right? And the Zupta or Gupta issues and affair in the country. So this office of public protector was going after Jacob Zuma and those who are engaging in that activities in a way that you don't see in other countries that have that independent body. But of course, right. Who knows who's going to be appointed to that role? Because many people said, well, it's not just that office, but it's that individual in that office that's taking the lead in that area. But at the same time, South Africans say, as much as they're making people pay back the money through some of these investigations, they're not getting any sort of criminal punishment, right? So that's the
Right.
issue. Like Jacob Zuma builds this multi-million-dollar pool for the purposes of putting out fires as a national security interest, of the state. Like that was his rationale. The government, they basically said you need to pay back the money, right? But people are
Right.
wondering, where's the real criminal charges, right? And so maybe it looks maybe it's sort of an advanced step in terms of fighting corruption, but many people say doesn't go far enough. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, you
Well,
see, over to you, Gloria.
I would say it's not like Peter just said. This is just one, of a few incidents where they actually get the person to pay back the money. So we need to see more than that in order for us to say, okay, now we actually moving towards taking corruption seriously. I have one example though. Again, this is just one example. I wouldn't say that things have changed because of that. The president chief of staff in the DRC, his name is Vital Kamerhe, is in jail right now. I don't know if any of you followed the story. He's in jail for
Yeah.
embezzling $48 million, and this is unheard of in the DRC. This is the first where a politician, somebody who so influential, actually ends up in jail for corruption. So I would say we need punishment. It's important, so that people just don't do it again.
Yeah.
Um,
Ever any thoughts from Ghana?
I think that there's still more needs to be done. Telling the president to pay the money back is not enough. There have to be consequences so that it will deter other people from doing it. But if it's just that I have to pay the money back without any consequences or serving any jail time, then another person will say that, oh, I can spend the money and actually they won't do anything to me. I just need to go and pay it back and not even pay everything back. I have to pay something back. Then they will see that I've been held accountable. But I just feel like more need to be done, especially African countries. They have to let the institutions work for themselves. They have to let the office of the judiciaries or the chief justice office work on cases like this. Usually be cases where the president and the ministers meddle in it. In that case, it's not transparent, it's not fair, and it's not honest because they are trying to do a favor to a friend. But in the eye of the public, it's good, but no, you don't even know where the money is going to come from. Are
Exactly.
they going to cut up corners to help her pay the money? Or how are we going to know if she paid the money? The ministers and those in the parties and her cronies will come out and say, she paid the money, but to us in the public, what is the evidence that she paid the money?
I mean,
and
that was very.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
there
over
is
to you,
more.
Violet.
More needs to be done. It has to be transparent. The public have to be detailed. They have to be given detailed information on the procedures. So that is why I feel like the judiciary system or whatever corruption board they have needs to take over. It's the same thing that happens in Ghana. You hear that there's a corruption case is going on. By the time you realize the case has died, nobody's talking about it. You get it? And I'm sure that this one has come up. Is now everybody's talking about it. It's gained public opinion. In a week or 3 or 4, it will die. That is how
Yeah.
it happens. Start framing and things like that. So I just feel like the institutions should take their due course in handling cases like this.
Yeah,
In-
that was a
thank you,
very
Eva,
good
for
submission.
saying that. That reminds me of how hilarious our continent is sometimes. So as Gloria was speaking, it reminded me of something from Uganda, and then when Eva started speaking, it made it even more clearer. So Eva, you see how you say that everyone talks about a corruption story, and then in 4 weeks it's disappeared, and nobody really knows what happened. So in Uganda, there's a section of the population that thinks that when a high-ranking government official is sent to jail, he's sent to jail for the cameras, and then at night he gets out of jail and goes back to his house. I know, right? And then everyone thinks he's in jail, but he's in his house. And so when Gloria said that minister, high-ranking official had been sent to jail, in my head I was like, Gloria, are you sure he's not in his house? And
You have a
So,
point.
so,
We will
so
never know.
You
Yeah.
have to
I mean, so
verify. And one of the questions I had for you, Gloria, is in that case that you mentioned, was that like this case of selective prosecution, right? Like we see the situation where, when there's been a transition of power, then the new guy comes in and then he starts prosecuting selectively everyone who was in the former government or who may still have power, who may have still sway. And it becomes this, in a sense, an ability for them to prevent them from getting power. What was the sort of story, Gloria, behind the case you mentioned?
Not at all. So this
Interesting.
person was the closest, I'd say, the president's ally. In fact, the two of them were the one running the president's campaign. So he's the person who started with the president when he decided he was going to run and all of that. He was closest to him. So this surprised everybody. Nobody saw this coming. And that's why, I mean, everybody was like, if this is really is a first, and if we can allow, like Eva said, our judiciary system, because he went through a trial, and he's not the only person who was charged. I think there were two or three other people. So it's very important that the judiciary plays its independent role in cases like that.
Absolutely.
so the question I want us to actually discuss is this. Africa of 20, 30 years ago may not be involved in prosecuting people that are involved in corruption. And now Africa has learned its lessons. And some of our leaders will say that they want to learn to do things differently because they believe African leaders have always been treated, differently whenever they commit a crime, similar to those that their counterparts are committed either in Western countries or in Asian countries. So my question to you is this: don't you think that Africa is making some, massive leap when it comes to the issue of corruption? Leap in the sense that previously it used to be like when there are issues of corruption, the leader tends to look this way. And now there are issues of corruption. We seem to be having some responses to some of these issues. People are being prosecuted. Prosecution leading to, okay, somebody going for a plea bargain, you have to return the money. We don't actually know whether the money is being returned. Would we consider this to be a kind of, changes, welcome changes that are taking place in our governance process so that we can, sort of applaud this and start to agitate for more. Because, for example, everything we're talking about, it has happened in Nigeria. Every damn single thing. All of these cases, you see it in Nigeria. Some people even want to say it the way Peter said it, that the government of today comes when there is a new national leadership at the federal level. What they do is that they prosecute those from the opposition. And then people are now saying, okay, when those who are in the opposition also becomes the leader of the country, they can prosecute those who were in the previous ruling party. So there is more of that trend because people believe there's going to be a win-win for them. So whether you catch a thief that is in the opposition party or whatever you, and I'm beginning to see that possibly some changes are beginning to take place. Of course, we've not been there. Do we see it this way or we see it differently?
Well, in
So
my opinion, I
over.
think it depends on. I'm sorry about that. In my opinion, I think that it depends on which school of thought you subscribe to. Because if you're someone who is pessimistic and very suspicious of the government, definitely, you're going to think like those people who say, well, it's all for optics. Because as Gloria was saying, that the person that went to jail was like the closest person to the president. And in my head, I was like, what if the president and and by the way, disclaimer, this is purely for comic relief. What if the president and this guy were like, you know what, let's take this money and then you be the fall guy and then we'll divide the spoils later. I mean, yes, it's a conspiracy theory, but people do think like that. And I mean, stranger things have happened on that continent, so I wouldn't be shocked. So I think it depends on whether one believes in the power of our government to really bring in positive change, or people think it's for optics. Because sometimes when it's election year or there's something at stake, governments will do crazy things to make citizens think that there's actually something tangible going on and there's actually nothing. So it's left to be seen. I am still on the fence. I don't know what my colleagues think.
Gloria, what do you
I
think
would
about
like to
this?
say no. I would like to think the president of South Africa has he has a good intention. Although I don't believe that the way he went about it is the most effective way. But he has the will to do something about corruption. Although this is not something that can be solved in one presidency, he shows that he has the will. But I think the approach needs to be different and more effective.
So, what do you think needs to change in the approach, Gloria?
Well, the best way is to empower institutions. Eva actually had the best, idea about this issue. Empower the judiciary, hand over this case to them, and let them, go through a trial or look into this in a deeper way. Peter mentioned the public protector. I do remember when I lived in South Africa, the previous public protector, I would like
Yeah.
to believe she was effective and she had a good public opinion. She was good at her work. Have somebody who's completely detached from politics and stuff like that, who can lead that institution in a way that South Africa can actually be effective in stopping some of these issues of corruption.
Yeah, just onto that point, I think you're right, Gloria, that the courts may be useful in this process. The one thing we always have to keep in mind with the courts is they were also appointed, and sometimes they have to go through reappointment processes. So there's never an institution that's like completely independent of others. Even the most independent has the other institutions, other people will have some leverage. But the court may be one good avenue, but that sort of judicial independence has to be cultivated over a period of time. And so I, like you, Gloria, agree, like maybe having some sort of special office, that is focused on prosecuting and dealing with these cases is an important thing. But as you said, Gloria, the previous public protector, the one that I alluded to before, the one that was going after Jacob Zuma, had very high approval ratings, and she did her job very diligently and was given awards for the great work that she had done when she was in office. But it makes you think, is that just her? Can there be sort of consistency, or are we going to just sort of rely on kind of creating these institutions and hoping that we have good leadership in those positions? And then when we don't have good leadership, then we're back maybe to square one. Who knows? So I think these points are good. Yeah.
Yeah, Eva, I want to know what do you think is the place of people in this conversation? And I want you to speak from the perspective of Ghana. Yeah, what is the role that people are going to play in this shift that we are all calling to?
So I want to answer your first questions about the fact that you were talking about the fact that you could see that there's a little bit of improvement in terms of persecutions and things like that. But I also feel like it's more of like a political revenge where when one party is in power, they try to persecute and indict the opposition. If they left power, they just left power of corruption charges. And also, if the opposition come into power, they also want to persecute the other opposition party because they were in power and they meddle in a lot of corrupt cases. So I feel like this is how it's going to be, and this is something that is going on in Ghana. Like in Ghana, for example, they have the government recently created the Office of the Special Prosecution, and this government promised that when he comes, he's going to deal with a lot of corrupt cases. As we sit here, there have been a lot of corrupt cases, but we don't really hear much from the Office of the Special Prosecution. We don't actually know what is going on. So that is what I'm saying, that there is a need for an independent body. Even look at the Special Prosecution Office. Yeah, it's good. They just started recently. You have to give them time. But personally, for me, I don't see the guy as forthcoming on on following up with some of the big standard that we've been hearing, some of the big things that is coming up. It's actually journalists in Ghana that are actually pointing us to a lot of corrupt cases, a lot of bad deals that are going on behind the scenes. So I personally will applaud the media station, and the journalists in Ghana that has been drawing our attention to a lot of things. If we didn't have a strong, like say, media and also journalists that have recently get involved in a lot of investigative cases, we wouldn't know some of the things that are going on behind the scenes. So, as you said, in many countries, especially in Ghana and Nigeria, I feel like there is the need, and other all African countries, that is the independent judicial system, and plus the Office of the Special Prosecution, the prosecutor, because that office, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, will what will happen is that if they bring up the case and they go through, they did the investigation, then people will still have to go through trials and things like that. So both of them still need to be independent to be able to work. It has to be non-partisan, right? And as I was
That's
saying,
true.
these people are appointed, so there is kind of a level of loyalty to whoever you appoint. So what
Yeah.
happens is that even with that, we also have to start going, creating like independent boards, right? If the president appoint this person, they still have to go through this channel for them to make sure that the person parties are not in favor of one party or something like that. They have to be thoroughly vetted, right? To make sure that they are coming in a position to serve the people, not the government. That is one thing we always forget. That these people in power are to serve us. But it's more like when they come, they are serving the government or something like that. Like the Office of the Special Prosecutor, like this, when there is a case that comes and like say he persecutes people, will say, hey, yes, the government did this, the government did that, right? Right? He did this for the government, and the government will be taking all the credit like that. But he is working for us, so he has to be like for the people. And also, all the things that I always say is that I feel like we the people are really quiet, right? As I said, public opinion will go up in a week or four again. These politicians, they are smart. They will sway public opinion by bringing in something else so that we forget about this issue and start talking about the issue. But we also need to be active and engaging citizens, right? Even
Right.
if they sway our opinion or even if they sway, they want to change the topic to something else, we still need some engaging citizens, especially the the civil service society or whatever you call
Yeah.
it,
Bishop.
to be
Yeah.
engaged behind the scene, to be also pushing for some of these things. You get it?
Right.
So I feel like we, the citizens, really need to talk, right? And also, you know, the political structure in Africa, we are also too partisan. That is the thing. If there is a party in power that we like, whatever they are doing, we feel like is right in our sight, even if it's corrupt cases and things like that. As far as we get a little bit from them, we feel like is right. No, we have to put the nation first, not party first. So that's why
So
I am
we'll come.
advocating. I'm coming. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
am
So
advocating.
Eva. Yeah. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, Eva.
Okay, that's why I am advocating for the Office of the Special Prosecution to be thoroughly independent and even the judiciary system. And as you guys are all saying that we really need to build, invest in this institution to be independent, but it will take time. So let's hope that as we move forward, um, they'll become more and more transparent and also independent.
So Eva, I will come back to you very soon. Violet, I want you to have the last say on this issue. How do
Sorry,
you
can I
Gloria
view
wants to
the-
say. Well, Gloria, what were you
Gloria,
thinking?
It's a quick
what
one.
do you
I
think?
want
Go
to
ahead.
say one important thing in tackling the issue of corruption is to change mindset. Even as we're working on this institution, an important thing is to change people's mindset, both at the government and the public, to understand that it is for our own good, to make sure that we run our government with transparency, especially when it comes to money. Just yesterday, Foreign Policy put out a report to say that Africa is losing more money in corruption
Yeah.
than losing more money than actually receiving through aid. Imagine if
Oh
we can
my
run our
God.
institution with transparency, we may not even need money coming from America, from Europe. They came
Right,
up with a
right.
number which is 90 billion. That is the amount of
Yeah.
money that Africa loses a year through corruption. So we need to start changing people's mindset to know that it is for our own good, it is for our own people.
Hey, thank you. That was a very massive point, Gloria. And to you, Violet, how do we change people's mindsets to end this conversation?
Well, I completely agree with what Eva and Gloria have said. All I'll just say is that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So if our governments don't turn, all their good intentions into tangible, deliverables, we are wasting time and we'll eventually end up in hell. So that's all I can say.
Okay, thank you so much. That was a very massive conversation with a lot of important talking points. And so now I'll be moving to Eva to lead us on the thing that is agitating our mind over the last 2 weeks. So over to you, Eva, and you can take that opportunity to also address the other point you want to raise as well.
Okay. So I want to talk about Western Togoland. I don't even know if any of you have heard about the case that is going on in Ghana. A group of people
Peter,
have
of
come
course you
together.
would know.
A group of people have come together and they said they want independence from Ghana, right? And this is strange,
Interesting.
like Ghana of all places, and people are fighting for their independence. So it's a section of like the Volta region and some part of the new region, that is OT region, going to like the Upper East and some part of the Northeast. So I actually thought that this was a new thing that has been going on. Like, say, it was actually last year that this story started coming up, where a group of people, um, led by their leader called Charles Kumi, I think it's Kumoji Papavi. They had a meeting at O. O is the capital city of Volta region, and they declared their independence.
Wow.
I hope they just
Have
wanted
they
to
been
go to
arrested?
the
Have they been arrested?
Let me continue the story. It's getting interesting. They declared their independence in a meeting last year, and it's called Western Togoland, right? And we were like, what is going on? So the police went in, stormed there, they arrested some of them. Their leader went into hiding, right? The leader is an old man, and we are like, how can this extreme old man in his 80s thereabout have such an influence? So I dig in a little bit to understand where this is coming from and what is going on. And even if these people have any legitimate to claim that they want to have their own independent country from this small Ghana, you know the map of Ghana, very small,
I
So
understand.
I dig in, and it happens that Western Togoland actually was a German kind of territory during the colonial period. So we have Togo, which belonged to the French. We have Gold Coast that belonged to the English, the Queen, the British, and we have Germany. Like that is Western Togoland, that small strip of land for Germany. So after World War I, and after they signed, Germany was defeated, and after they signed the Treaty of Versailles, I mean, the British took over, right? So they took over. It was Gold Coast, and when the Ghanaians fought for independence or something like that, they were asking these people if they want to join Ghana or they want to remain independent. Like this is how the story is going. So they voted. It was kind of there was a referendum, and majority of them said they want to be part of Ghana. So that is how they became part of Ghana, and we all like were Ghanaians.
Oh, okay.
I heard that in 1994, this guy called Papavi, who's like the leader, formed an organization called Homeland Study Group Foundation, and they started studying the terrain of the Togoland and things like that. And they were petitioning the government they want to go independent in the sense that they feel like their part of their region has been marginalized. There's no much development, unemployment is high and things like that. And also, actually, the union that they built with former Gold Coast or present day Ghana was not really formalized, something like that. So for now, they want to be independent. And also, this thing came up last, I think when he said this, like people were not taking them serious. But when last year we heard that people in the Volta region have had a meeting and declared themselves independent from Ghana. So now the police stormed there, arrested some of them. The leader went into hiding. Then just last week in September, like everything has gone down. We've not heard from them again. So just last week, again, they started again. This time, a group of young guys went to one of the police station, attacked the police station. I think they took some guns and things like that. They attacked the police station. They also went to some the state transport corporation, burned down some properties, and it
Wow.
was a lot of it was chaotic. So the security operatives went there to arrest some people. But right now, I just feel like the government just came out and said we will deal with these people. And what they are saying is that they really want their independence. So the government should come to table together with the UN for them to talk and have some kind of negotiation. However, some of the chiefs in those areas have condemned them, and the people are saying that they do not want to be independent. You get it? They do not want to be independent. So we actually, for me, I don't actually don't know what is going on, but
So,
the security
so
operatives
Eva,
are really, really.
how many people are we talking about? So is this like just a few people? Is this like 1,000, 2,000, 100,000? Like how many people are we talking about here? And the other question
So
that's on my mind here is, are they all coming from like the same like family or like ethnic community? Like what are the numbers? Like what is the scope of this? Or is this an old man and a few people that are around him, talking about this, getting excited about, being part of something, quote unquote? Like
Just
what
adding
is
to
the
that
scope
question,
of this?
what is the main reason? I haven't heard what is the main reason for seeking independence.
okay,
Yeah.
What is the issue?
And Eva, before you answer all our questions, I think you should start with mine. Mine is why? Because from the story you told me, they joined you voluntarily. They were not originally a part of Ghana, and now if they want to leave the marriage, why are you not? Why have they told you about it?
So, if as you are responding to that question, one thing I would like to know from you, and our viewers would like to know from you, is whether they are actually independent, interested in breaking away from Ghana, or they want to use the call for breaking away from Ghana as a leverage for the issues of marginalizations, for the issues of neglect to be addressed. What do you think is actually playing out? Is it real or being instrumented as a leverage to something else?
okay. So Peter, the side of Ghana that they want to declare independent is Volta region, Oti region, Northern region, Northeast region, and
Well,
Upper East region. So
That's a
it's
lot.
just if you know, yeah, if you know the map of Ghana, it's like
That's a
a
real
straight
slice.
line separating that part of Ghana and us. It's like a slide of a pie.
But
You
how
get it from the
enthusiastic are
country.
that's a big slice. Like that's even some northerners, some south. But I mean, is there any support, like public support across
Yeah.
this
Let
outside
me
of this
let me
small
finish.
group getting together?
So the population of
Floyd.
the population of the area is about 4 million, like 4 million people.
Mm.
Oh,
But
that's
the
a
people
lot.
that are really, yeah, but the people that are really leading this are just a few people, from what I know. But we also don't know if there are more. Do you get it? Because last year they arrested a few of them, and and the case died down. It became quiet. But as of last week, they've arrested over 30 people. So we don't know if there are more people. You get it? That really want this kind of independence, or the whole region want the independence. But I personally, I don't think that the whole region want independence, because the chiefs of the regions have come to say that they do not want independence. They want to be part of Ghana. Do you get it? And they have actually condemned the activities of the group. So my question is it how, what is their population, the people leading this fight for independence? For that, I don't know. And even their leader, as of now, we don't even know his whereabouts, right? And
So,
Gloria asks, like, what is the reason? So one of the reasons that I saw was, has to be a form of kind of marginalization. You get it? It's a feeling of, like, say, they've been neglected, they've not, development has been limited in those areas. And this thing actually
Okay.
came up, that was last year, when the financial minister of finance read the budget last year. Then in the budget, he didn't include road money for budget for like roads in the water region. So the people
Oh,
were like, you
Oh,
see, they don't even want to work
that's
with
yeah.
okay.
us. There was not even
I,
money for us. But the next day, the
Mm,
minister was like, it was a mistake. So they corrected it, right? So the
Oh,
people capitalized on this last and was like, you see, they don't even want to, I mean, remember,
they're being
look at
treated
what they
like a stepchild.
mm,
yeah, yeah,
mm,
no, but I just feel like there is more to that. I don't think that is actually
mm,
the main case because if they feel like marginalized in terms of development, then almost every part of Ghana should come out to say that they are neglecting us, with the exception of Greater
mm,
Accra, which is like the capital city. Greater Accra, Accra is way developed than a lot of places, right? The Northerners should also come out and say that they are neglecting us because even the northern part of Ghana, that is a section of this Western Togoland, is just a small part of the northern Ghana, not like the whole northern region. You get it? So if that is the case, then a lot of regions and a lot of people have the right to come and say that we are all being marginalized. You get it? So
Right.
for me
mm,
personally, I don't feel like the route we are taking is actually the best. If they felt like
mhm,
they've been marginalized or they felt like they've been neglected, that is why they have to first of all call the office of the president and talk with the president and say that, hey, we feel we've been marginalized. And you know the deal. Our people voted to be part of Ghana, but we've come together and realized that we want to um, form our own independence. You get it? And besides,
mm,
this region, I don't think is a region that I'm just talking about in terms of how much they contribute to GDP, which I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be much, right? If they declare independent, will they be able to be like self sustenance? How are they going to manage their own internal affairs? How are they going to do their own stuff? Yeah, in terms of schools, because most of the schools there, most of the things there are in the name of Ghana. Are you going to take over?
mm,
Are you going to take them over? It's a lot of process that you have to go through. So I just feel like the best thing that needed to be done is if they felt like they wanted to leave or they felt like they've been marginalized, the office of the president is there. Call the office of the president, talk with the chiefs, even for the chiefs to come out to say that they condemn their act and they do not want to. They and their people have come together and they said they do not want to leave. It tells you that this is a group of people that are doing this, right? This is a small number of people. I don't think it's a big number of people. And for me, on my part, the government has to deal with them because if they don't really deal with them, we are going to have, like, say, an insurgent group that is arising in Ghana. You get it? Because if they don't talk to
mm,
them, they don't hear their part of their story, and also they really need
mm.
to deal with them. For actually going to take over a police station and attacking people and leading to the death of one person, they really need to be dealt with. So the government security operative are in that region monitoring situation going on the
It's very
ground.
interesting. Yeah, it seems like the Ghana government is taking these guys really seriously. Let me put up this piece here. You know, this comes from the BBC Pigeon Service. You can see the officers there on the screen rounding up these what looks like pretty young people. At least their leader, you
yeah,
mentioned
very
Eva,
young.
is older, but you can see it's young boys here that are involved in it, and they're even bringing in the hardware, so to speak, with the helicopter there in the back,
Right.
in
Right.
their red berets. But it's kind of interesting that the government is responding so quickly to this. I mean,
Yeah.
is it some sort of like militarized threat in a sense, or is this, I
Anyway,
don't know, just
guys,
showing their power, projecting, showing that they're, doing something? I don't know.
anyway,
So
guys,
actually,
as
it's
much as
wait,
I
wait.
would like us to continue this conversation, I think we need to move to the next issue because we have about 15 minutes to close it off today. Yeah, the debate
Yeah.
continues. Eva, this is a very interesting issue. We are facing something
Yes.
similar in Nigeria, the IPOB or Biafra movement. And recently, some very marginal individuals they started talking about the dual republic. I realized that there might be a bad wagon effect that we can come to speak about in the next in a fortnight. But now I want to move us to the issue of debate. It's a very interesting issue, Eva, that will continue to
Yeah.
generate a lot of debate. But now there's the other debate that Peter is going to talk about. Over to you, Peter.
Yeah. Yeah, so on our show, I'm gonna kind of follow a little bit of the American elections, but from perhaps a perspective or useful ways of thinking about it in the African context, right? Because we are in the
Okay.
midst in the U.S. of a very heightened election period, and people are watching. People are wondering, people are drawing a lot of parallels between what's going on in the US and what's going on in their home countries, right? And even as a professor, you know, when we're having conversations in class, sometimes with a lot of American students present, they're like, "Oh, this sounds a lot what we've been talking about in that class in the politics of development or in this country that is, you know, had different historical experiences and alike." So, you know, reflect.
Isn't this just telling us that we've so much been looking at African and developing country differently, without realizing that developed countries are indeed a variant of what is happening in Africa.
Yeah,
I,
no,
I,
yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I
That's
mean,
an interesting way to
the
think
thing
of it.
about politics that people don't realize is that the problems that we see in one country, they may have different nuances. They may have different types of actors, different history, as we're talking about the Germans in Western Togoland, right? All of these things may be different, but certain principles about governance are very similar, right? And the fact that, you know, countries are having elections and as we're going to talk about debates in their own countries, they're kind of sharing information. They're kind of looking at what each other are doing and seeing
Right.
value in certain things. So, you know, there's a lot of similarities. And so let me talk about that a little bit. So I'll start with this interesting thing, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about it as we go. But, you know, Trump is kind of a figure, Trump being the American president, Donald Trump. Everyone knows his name now. It's scrolled across the internet in many places, right? He's actually he's very unpopular in the US, more or less. His popularity, you know, sort of like ratings, like always like 33, 44%, so less than 50%. But interestingly enough, on the continent of Africa, he's quite popular. And I know that Pew Research Center, some of you may have heard of Pew, right? This group
Right,
that
right.
does public opinion polling. So they polled people across different countries, and they're like, you know, what do you think of, you know, Donald Trump, or what do you think of the U.S.? And you see in countries like your country there of Nigeria, Ghana, like about 58%, I think, you know, had favorable views of the U.S. and sort of you know, and Trump personally, right? So pretty high. In Kenya too, it's like 65%, you know, favorability. I will say, Gloria, you've spent time in South Africa. We've been talking about South Africa. South Africans are a little bit cold to Donald Trump, and we can imagine some reasons why, right? Historical reasons, his racial dog whistles and alike, right? We can think
Right.
about that. So he's kind of a popular figure. So we have to always think about like how people are viewing this from this lens of like, why is he viewed so popular? And I'm sure we'll get into that. But the other thing people are paying attention to is, you know, these debates that happened, right? And, you know, debates are something new in African countries, like presidential head-to-head debates where people stand on the same stage, and it's like, you know, Violet and I were talking about this the other day. Museveni, you know, in the last election, 2016, he actually participated in debates. So you see him like off to the far right, and then not far right like politically, but like on the stage on the far right. And then you see all these people, you know, sitting there. There's a lady sitting next to him who's like, you know, I remember when you visited my school and I sang you a song about how the youth should be involved in politics. And he's like, well, you know, now it's time to, you know, transition in a very nice and very polite way, you know, with the elder president sitting there. And so
And
debates are
Peter,
new.
please,
Yeah, go ahead.
and please don't forget to mention as well that he had demanded for all the questions and the answers to the debate in advance, and you know some of the questions that he shouldn't be asked. All right, before he could attend the debate. So yes,
And they had
Oh,
9 rules. They go through like the rules. It is like, you must be respectful. You must be, you know, you must keep it within time. They're like 9 rules. It's like,
Let's go to the issue of these rules of the debate. Because this is one thing. Because when I was in Nigeria myself, I organized school humanitarian debate. and the person that is considered the best governor, one of the best governor in the recent history of Lagos State, Babatunde Fashola, who is currently a minister under the ruling party, was one of those that attended the debate, and I organized it for the second time. And I spent my personal resources to put this debate together, and we set the rules of the game. So when I was watching Trump's and Joe's debate, I was like, where were the rules? Because I believe if a debate is going to be focused and is going to be rid of distraction, there must be rules. Is there something the US could learn from Africa? Because I haven't heard of any debate that is chaotic. Of course, in Nigeria,
Yeah.
the nature of the debate is such that none of the two major presidential candidates have ever attended a debate in the history of Nigeria. Because to them it doesn't count. They will say, no, no, it doesn't count.
That's
Voters are never going
interesting.
to make that decision
That's
based on
so
that.
interesting.
So I was wondering, is that the situation in Ghana, Eva?
So in Ghana, we started having debates. I became
Mm-hmm,
aware of debates, I think, in 2012, and I've seen some of
mm-hmm,
the debates. It's not been chaotic as this. The leaders are very
mm-hmm,
respectful of each other's time, each other's comments. If they want to rebut, they wait for the other person to finish talking, then they come out with their
mm-hmm,
counter arguments and things like that. And even with that, they are brief. They
mm-hmm,
tell them, hey, it's 1 minute to respond. And after 1 minute, like let's say 15 seconds to the end of the time,
mm-hmm.
they remind them that
With a little
you're
bell.
almost
There's like
there.
a
A
bell
little
that
bit,
goes
a bell,
ding.
yeah. Then they finish. So I was actually, after this debate, I went back to watch some debate in other African countries. I watched
Oh, I
Kenya,
see that.
even Uganda, and I watched Ghana and Nigeria. Like it's on YouTube, and it wasn't chaotic. People are very respectful of each other's time, each other's opinion, and if they disagree, they just respond. Right? It wasn't like name calling and telling lies and misinformation and things like that, and feeling like you are the one in charge and you have to say whatever you want to say. So I just feel like it's two different things. And I was one thing that came to my that is it like our culture, which does our culture also play a role in how like in African countries they debate people and things like that.
I would
If I
just
will
jump
come
in
back
there
to
and
you,
say,
yeah, I was going to call on you, Gloria, because you are the communication person. I was going to call on you.
I would say we have to understand here that in America, talking about the debate that just happened last week or this week, the issue is not the debate structure. The issue were the people, or should I say, the
Mm.
person in the debate. We've seen debates previously. I mean, they were okay. They were fine. We've never had a chaotic. I've never seen personally a chaotic debate in America as this one. So let's talk about who were the people involved in that debate and who was the person responsible for the situation that happened in the presidential debate.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You have rules, right? You have the rules, and they in the U.S. you have this commission that comes together. It's actually a nonprofit organization that sort of that works with the political parties. Because I know in some African countries the media arranges the debates or individuals arrange the debates, but in the U.S. there's this generally accepted platform that does. And so they decide on the rules. They actually go through a process of negotiation. So they have to agree on the rules, and then everyone agrees to the location, the format. They even decide on whether you're sitting or standing in the debates, right? And they have to argue over these kind of points, or how now they're actually arguing about rules of how far the candidates need to be apart from each other, right? For social distancing. So in one of the upcoming debates, it's supposed to be 7 feet. They have a vice presidential debate coming up next week. You have to be 7 feet. So now they're arguing. The Democrats are arguing they need to be 14 feet apart. So they're negotiating. They're discussing these rules. But as you said, Gloria, it's about the individual. It's about the norms, right? The additional norms, right? And if you look at Donald Trump, his whole thing is how many norms can I break? Like
Exactly.
this is a piece of his presidency, right? There are things that you have to do by law, and questionably he's done some questionable practices by law, but you also have the norms, right? And so perhaps what we see when we see like debates in other countries, that those rules are present, but you also have a respect for norms. As I was mentioning, in Uganda, my sister's country, there, you have a respect for the elder, president sitting right there as well. So once that goes away, who knows what it would look like, regardless of the number of rules there.
Peter, that,
Absolutely.
that was a very good point. And I'm going to get the last contribution to this issue, and obviously the last contribution on this show today from Gloria. What was going on from a Violet? Violet, I know you are very, very particular about gender perspective to issue. There was a debate that aired about 3 years or 4 years ago, and there was a man that was standing in election. There was a lady that was standing in election. The man has not changed, and the only thing that changed in the other is that it's a case of women. So, what do you think that the other lady did differently that made us not to have a chaotic debate? And I wanted to give this an African flavor as well.
Well, that's an interesting question, Ghana, and it's very nuanced. And to be honest, to answer it properly, we would have to, sort of like look at so many factors. But of course, we know that the world is still gendered to a great extent, and depending on where the country is and the sociocultural norms in that country, definitely that will affect how the female debaters will act. Like Gloria says, that norms do play a very big role in shaping how we respond. But sometimes you also find that because there's a woman and a man involved in a debate, definitely sometimes depending again on the way that the man has been influenced by the norms in the set that he's grown up in, sometimes misogynistic. Definitely, they're going to look down on their female counterpart and probably talk over them, and use their privilege as a man to sort of like undercut their female opponent. And if she gets angry, sometimes they're going to say, "Oh, women are just being emotional." And so you find that when women are in those political debates with their male counterparts, they face a lot of pressure. When a man comes to debate, they're just going to mostly look at the substance of what he's saying. But when a woman comes to debate, they're going to start by looking at her hair, what she's wearing, her makeup, how she's standing, and then she can't even get angry because they're going to say, "Oh, now her hormones are talking." So there's a lot of things that you I kid you not. So there's a lot of obstacles to getting your voice heard. By the time you have people listening to what you actually have to say, you have to cut through all those barriers. Some of them are just going to be looking at your facial features or your legs or something like that. So there's just there's a lot. But meanwhile, for the man, they're going to be listening to what he has to say. And after the debate, when you have others talking about what you were discussing, for the woman, they'll discuss the way you were dressed as well. So there's just really a lot, and I don't know if we'll be completely able to change the perception of people when they're looking at both a male and female discussant. But I feel that there's a lot more pressure on females. Now, when it comes to like the African context, we all know that females have been raised to be more submissive to male authority. And like you had Peter saying that one of the female presidential candidates who was debating with the incumbent had to even say, "Oh, sir, when you came to my school, I sang for you a song," and she was trying to almost pander to him. But I mean, I would expect that it would be about, what policy are you bringing about? What changes do you want to make? And nothing to do with, "Oh, I need to first of all stroke your ego before I can talk to you." And fine, as much as there is the issue of the age gap, but then the gender aspect also comes in as well. You need to submit, you need to make yourself small so you do not rub his ego the wrong way. So I feel that especially for Africa, I feel that women are going to have to grow out of that shell that has been sort of like put on us. And in terms of political debates, look at men as their equals, and society is going to have to adjust the way they perceive these things and look at women as, again, equals to men, if that's even possible. Otherwise, before you get your voice heard, you're going to be audited based on your looks, based on what you're wearing, and based on your reactions or your perceived emotions. And that's still a very big hurdle we have to cross.
Yeah.
I mean, thank
Ghana,
you so
Ghana,
much, guys.
Ghana, you made a good point here about sort of the main candidates in Nigeria not debating. I want to end on one funny story in this regard. It's not so
Okay, thank you
funny,
for that.
comical at the time, but in Kenya, they had a presidential election in 2017, and the candidates were arguing over, the debate in the format and sort of who was going to be there and all of these different pieces. And in Kenya, to enter in a debate, the media generally says you have to have a certain percentage of the vote in the polls. So you have to get like 5% in the polls. That makes a little bit of sense, right? You don't want anyone just sort of showing up into the debate and is
Right.
trying to steal the show when they're not a serious contender for the office per se, right? So they had that limit. So that boiled it down to the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the opposition leader, the perennial opposition leader, Raila Odinga. And then, so they were debating, who's going to come and how's it going to go. And so at the last minute, Raila Odinga decides to go to the debate. They postpone the debate by some minutes, thinking that the president may actually show up, right? It was like a game of chicken in a sense with the debate. Turns out President Uhuru Kenyatta does not show up at the debate, and so the debate becomes an hour, and a half, something thereabouts of a back and forth between the moderators asking the question and the opposition leader asking it. People are joking that it was a Raila Odinga infomercial, right? So I guess maybe the talking over one another maybe slightly preferable to a one man or one woman debate.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's really interesting how how these debates play out for sure.
Anyway,
It's
guys,
so
this is
great.
where we are going to end it today, and we want to thank our audience for listening to this program. It takes place every fortnight, and we call it This Week. We are going to be having it a fortnight from now, which is going to be 28th of October. In the meantime, we encourage you to subscribe to the Leaders of Africa channel on YouTube, and please do join our Facebook group, our Telegram channel, and our Discord community for further conversation and future program alert. We thank you for listening and for continuing to be engaged in all of our different programs. That's all we have for this week. Thank you and have a blessed weekend. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.